We are going. No idea what that was all about, and no real desire to revisit it. As I've just stopped here for this intersection, the offender's died at the intersection in the pouring rain and will not start. And we are going. No idea what that was all about, and no real desire to revisit it. Me. And now we've just died in the middle of the road. Thankfully I'm rolling out of the way. Alright, running again. I'm intrigued. The timing was bizarre, but just flicked over to the front tank and it's back idling again. What makes me think it was possibly the fuel issue again is voltage was fine, wasn't a voltage issue. And what I realised after I went to take off from the intersection is trying to get it going, I'd actually started it on choke, and so that would have richened up any fumes that were left in it. Still at a loss to what does it. We'll narrow that down at some point. So onto the rear tank, I'll see how that works for me between here and the next turn off. So I would have expected the issue on the rear tank on that little bit of a drive, but given that I don't want to be crossing Highway 1 and have it die, I just switched back to the front tank for safety. Next in the in the saga is been that much rain that discovered a new way for a LandRover to leak. So I've closed the vent in the hope that it's coming in there, but it could also be a minor leak in the windscreen. So, just made it to camp for the night after a couple of wrong turns. And this is actually one of the campsites that I wanted to stay at because it'll be quiet at the moment, but won't be many other times. Yeah, typical Friday night, just long week, long few weeks. Okay, it was inevitable. Not impressed, but it was inevitable. So I'm going to branch out slightly with dinner this evening. So see how that goes for me. This is actually an idea that I have to thank Mum for. It's not quite a tramping recipe, but it's where I got the idea. So the trick is you can actually do this without the egg if you use chickpea flour, but because I've got eggs, I'm using them instead of being fancy about things. Sweet corn fritters. So my usual fashion of using things that are far too small for the job. Got the world's smallest bowl. Corn fritter time. We can't have corn fritters without bacon. Well, that's not a bad corn fritter. I've actually come to quite enjoy cooking when camping. really enjoying it, just enjoying the process, which is something I've never really enjoyed cooking before. Not that tonight was anything super spectacular, but with that, we'll see what tomorrow night brings. So, all this week I've been watching the weather forecast, and the entire lower North Island has been absolute trash. So, this is pretty much the only place that was even going to have a remote chance of it being fine by the weather forecast. So if you've seen the previous episodes when I've been in this area, there's heaps that I still want to check out. Whether the weather plays the game or not, I'm yet unsure.
Testing out some homemade firelighters that apparently work really well. But we've got some moss that one of the boys collected last weekend, so hopefully it's nice and dry. Not convinced about the toilet roll dry lint thing from the internet, and our moss is still a little bit wet from last weekend because it had been raining when we collected it, so it's not working so well, but we've got fire.
So packed up camp, the weather's looking okay. So I told yesterday in the general direction of where I'm not going now that there's a big event on, and apparently it gets very busy, and from what I've just seen of the roads, they're not joking. I've driven this road a few times and never seen constant streams of cars like I've just seen, so I think I'm making the right call to not go up here. Just got to Arapuki, no bike this time. Gonna go and test out my new running vest for obviously for the upcoming adventure run. Apologise for the shaking. About 12k, most definitely the most challenging trail that I've run so far. That's quite the storm front that's just rolled through. Straight down in the middle of that is where I'm planning on camping. At Bartlett's Ford tonight, which is nearby to London's Ford, which I've stayed at a couple of times. Just thought I'd come and check this out this time. The weather's rolling in and out. Got fire, smoke, and shelter. So it's not all bad. It's nice and quiet. Doing something completely different tonight. Not completely different for me, I've done it before, but something completely different for cooking while camping, in fact. Typically I'd peel this, but I haven't got a peeler. All organised. Tonight I'm hunting around the supermarket for the cheapest meat that I could find, so I sidestepped the eye fillet this time, although I did look at it. It pulls my bacon off there. Cooking's about as cooked as it's going to get. To the fire. Just heat everything through until the cheese begins to melt. Morning. We had a fair bit of rain last night. I woke up early this morning to this
noise that sounded like a very slow firing engine. It was driving me absolutely mental. What it was is the leak on the floor had filled up my tray with water that I was trying to stop the slightly more low-key drip with. That kind of backfired on me, but that's alright. We've got a new seal coming, along with a couple of other minor bits and pieces. New wing mirror, perhaps. But time to get a fire on and have a coffee and some breakfast. Breakfast. Even when it's pouring with rain, there's something to be said about being out in nature and just relaxing. It just sometimes takes a little bit of convincing your mates that it's a good idea. You know who you are.
So it's back on the road for the day, headed home, albeit slowly. And yet there's still more things that I am not going to get to see today.
So I've just wandered across the road and seen this hanging down underneath, and it's off one of the fuel pumps. And as I've going to tuck it up under there, so just gone to have a look at my toolbox that I'm slowly assembling to try and find some zip ties or some electrical tape. Now I've discovered that it's somewhat incomplete, or shall we say absolutely useless to me. So it was in fact the power supply for the front fuel pump. Didn't cause me a problem for weeks because I normally use the rear tank and the front's my backup. Didn't actually notice this until I were about to use that 3/4 of a tank that I had on another trip and found that I didn't have a fuel pump.
Well, I'm back home and a couple of days have passed, but on the trip developed another minor anomaly. She runs, it's always nice. Turn the key off and she still runs, but now slowly we've got less voltage. So it eventually turns off, but over the weekend it just stalled it out. Now that I've got my screwdrivers out of the toolbox and played musical vehicles, I should actually move this vehicle back so that if my neighbours actually come home, they can get in the driveway. Currently, my 99 problems, my LandRover is all of them. Randomly, when I just turned that off, it just turned off fine for the first time, and like 20 times I've turned it off. Will it do it again? That will indeed teach me to badmouth LandRover. Fuck's sake. After giving up and going for a drive in one of the other vehicles that needed a run, it turns out that it doesn't want to play the game again. Remember that socket I lost when I did the dash? Found it. So as luck would have it, the ignition barrel does not want to come out of the switch, which it should. So I haven't got another one. We're resorting to a bit of light scumbaggery. It's in 3 pieces. Whether they're the right 3 pieces remains to be seen, but we'll find out. The ignitions are slightly different. And the barrel doesn't fit. So it's off to all the parts. Twice in a row. I'll call the one. Diagnostic time. Do you ever have those days where you look in the mirror and think to yourself, what kind of a muppet are we working with here? Yeah, me too. So a nice shiny new alternator ladder. I'm pleased to know that the alternator wasn't the problem. But who doesn't want a spare alternator? As it turned out, it was the voltage reducer for the ignition that was faulting, causing it to not turn off. So I were correct, but I did send it into the electrician to get them to solve the problem, because electronics aren't really my forte. Switch is off beautifully now. So thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next one very soon.